If you're trying to put in a pool, you're probably doing a lot of research, figuring out what is the best type of pool to build. There's a lot of options out there: vinyl, fiberglass, ICF, concrete, container pools, cowboy pools, the list goes on. But there are 4 main types of pools that most people build, and I want to go over those and give you the pros and cons of each. This is an unbiased opinion. I don't care what type of pool you build. I don't get paid depending on the type of pool you choose. So I want to give you my expertise and my opinion because I'm a 2nd generation pool construction expert and the co-founder of DIY Pools and Spas. We help thousands of families build their pools wholesale, and I want to teach you about these 4 main types of pools and which one is the best for you. All right, so let's start with vinyl liners. Vinyl liner pools are the most affordable type of pool you can build. They're cheap. All right, that is the big pro with them. They're also very customizable. You can do any kind of shape you want. However, where they're not customizable is the finish. The finish of a vinyl liner pool is going to be, dare I say, an ugly, gross texture, right? It feels like plastic. It doesn't look the nicest, and you're going to have a lot of issues on a vinyl liner long term. That is because they're cheap, right? Cheap is not just a price point, it is quality. So you have to consider the money pit of a vinyl liner. While it might be affordable on the front end, you will have issues long term with a vinyl pool. You're gonna have issues with tearing. You're gonna have to replace that vinyl liner. These tend to be money pits. In fact, so much so that most of the remodel projects that we do are people coming to us who have a vinyl liner pool and want to upgrade because they are sick and tired of dealing with all the issues from their vinyl pools. So, do I recommend them? No. However, if you're looking for the cheapest thing out there, vinyl liners might be a good choice for you. Now let's talk about ICF. A lot of people haven't heard of ICF. It just stands for insulated concrete forms. Now, the pros with ICF is that they're really high quality. They rival gunite or concrete-based pools with their quality and their customization, right? So they're very easy to build. They have a very solid foundation. They have all the different kinds of finish options that you would still have access to with a concrete pool. And the blocks that are used are easy to put together. So people who are really construction savvy want to usually use ICF because they feel like they can do some of the work themselves. The only cons with ICF that we have found is not all building departments are familiar with it, and so you want to check with your local jurisdiction before choosing an ICF pool because it might not be something that they will permit. Also, you have to take into account that because ICF is a very specialized way to build a pool, you have to work with a very particular engineer to engineer the pool. Most standard pool engineers will not provide engineering for an ICF-based pool. You have to go to a specialized engineer who understands ICF. Now let's talk about fiberglass. Fiberglass can be really good quality. Let's underline can be. All right. You don't need as many subcontractors in the field because you are not forming the shell on site. You are actually purchasing the shell and dropping it into the hole that's been dug. All right, when they drop that shell into the hole that's been dug, there's a process called backfilling. This is where they're gonna backfill the fiberglass shell with either rock or dirt. And as they backfill, they are going to be filling the shell with water. This has to be done very, very precisely. Otherwise, most shells on the market will have cracking issues as that backfilling takes place. So you do want to make sure you're working with an expert team in installing your fiberglass pool. Now, the other huge pro with a fiberglass is they are typically faster to install because you're not building the shell, you're simply dropping it into site. Now, there are some cons with fiberglass that you should be aware of. Number one is shells are expensive. And once you purchase that shell, that's not it. You also have to ship it to your house, right? With these kinds of shells, usually you're only getting one shell on one semi truck, which means you are paying that truck to haul your shell all the way to your house with modern day diesel prices. And then once it gets to your house, you have to then crane it into the backyard. so you also need to hire a craning service to do this. Now, here is where a huge con comes into play. Most craning services are going to require that you sign a waiver saying that they are not responsible if the pool shell cracks in the process or if they hit your house or a neighbor's house. And if you have not looked into this, you should, because this is something that's actually more common than you would think. It's very easy for a shell that is being lifted to suddenly get a wind blast and start to move and hit the corner of a house and just take out the siding of a house, right? And so you gotta consider that as part of the risk factor when installing fiberglass. Also, you do have to consider the risk factor of the shell cracking, if not during install and backfill, over time. There is a reason that most fiberglass shells are not warranted beyond 20 years, and that is because it is very easy for groundwater over time to create pressure pockets on that shell and cause cracking. The other huge con is customization. You don't have very many options and styles. I mean, they're doing a lot better with manufacturing these shells and making different shapes and sizes, but you don't get to customize it specifically to what you want. All right. Also, there is no customization with the finish of the shell. You are dealing with fiberglass as the surface, which tends to be a more slippery surface and have a certain look to it that doesn't look as nice as some of the fancier pebble or quartz or plaster options that are available for other pool types. Let's talk about concrete. Concrete is also known as shotcrete or gunite. Those are the two types of concrete used for swimming pools. Shotcrete is just a stronger mixture, a stronger form of gunite, all right? But both would be called concrete-based pools. Now, these are the most popular types of pools. There is a very good reason that all resorts everywhere put in concrete-based pools. It is because they are not only extremely customizable, they're not only extremely high quality, but they're also the most beautiful type of pool. They're gonna last the longest. They have a super solid foundation of steel and concrete, right? Steel and concrete is what we use to build foundations for skyscrapers. And so when considering a pool, if you want something that's gonna last a long time and have the least amount of issues with cracking, you definitely wanna consider building a concrete-based pool. The other huge pro with a concrete pool is the options are limitless when it comes to how you customize it and how you finish it. There are so many different types of plaster available, and plaster is one of the huge parts of the pool that is going to give it its visual aesthetic and its feel, right? So how that pool feels under your feet, how it feels when you're sitting around your spa, what it looks like, even the color of the water are all determined by the type of plaster that you choose. And so having those options available is really nice, and it's one of the reasons a lot of people turn to concrete-based pools. Also, one thing to consider, there are the most amount of subcontractors and pool companies available for concrete pools, and there is a good reason for that, and it is because they're the most popular, right? So things are popular for a very good reason, and I think concrete pools are the best type of pool that you can build for your family. The only con with a concrete pool is that they're the most expensive to build. Now, one of the ways that you can mitigate that con is by building your pool wholesale. If you want more information on how to build your pool wholesale and how to cut out the extremely high costs of the pool builders, links below this video to learn more. Thank you.